from where we sit is gorgeous, even if we don't fit inside your little portrait. The big picture is enormous, so we don't even have to fit. We after it, true purpose, yeah, we have to get. We mastered it, reporting it live from Black Pew, discussing politics, the culture, and laughing at you. Cause you don't understand the viewpoint, don't mean you up by a few points. You just ain't hip to these new joints we on. The world says to follow they pitch, we set the tone, then we knock it over the fence. Oh yes, it's gone. Them haters screaming loud from the bench. They get the bat and try to copy technique, but they miss the point that I mentioned earlier. I see that you observing the way I strangle this beat. Oh yeah, I'm a murderer. Enough of me, let's get back to this gorgeous view. I hope that you enjoyed the show. Welcome to the Black Pew.
Thank y'all for tuning in to Black Pew Podcast. The whole crew is here today. We ain't got no introductions. We were just about to go in.
Oh, everything I love.
I know, because we've been. How's everybody's week?
Good. Quick, fast,
Listen,
and hurry.
I don't remember that.
What was that?
You gotta think that was a lot of days ago.
My week was solid. It was cool.
It wasn't too bad. It was warm.
Where?
It was
It
here.
rained a little bit. We
know.
finally got a little rain.
Where y'all live at? I don't know.
That was
I just know it was sunny most of the week. It's the Pacific Northwest, so we expect some rain.
I'd be excited.
You feel me? But it rained less than it normally do.
True.
And so
right.
it was nice days. It was sunny. I was in a good mood. Enjoyed some Tawaka. I had some days off this week. You know, like it is what it is. You know?
It is.
Went to
Tawaka.
work, you know, did the whole thing. You know, folks work too. You know, so you know.
I was
It
out.
was good, productive, and lazy.
Amen.
I realized it takes more energy to be lazy than it do to be productive.
You
They
actually
really
gotta
do.
plan it
It
out.
does.
You gotta
Yeah.
plan it out. Yep.
To be lazy?
Yes.
Yeah, facts.
You gotta be. I can't be lazy though. It's hard.
Yeah, I was gonna say I ain't
I
been
be-
lazy since
I have to
was
like
13.
plan out my laziness.
Oh,
Yeah.
my bad.
Yeah.
I
If
try
I
to
have
be
a-
too.
if
It
I
don't
know,
work out
like,
that way.
Say if I have something planned in the morning, even if it's my day off, if I get up and do that, it's easy for me to stay active in the day. If I have nothing planned for the day, it will be like 2 o'clock before I go to bed. And I will not be like sleep. I will just be sitting there.
Yeah.
And I'll just be like,
Yeah.
I'm not about to do
See?
nothing.
That's the opposite of me. I'll wake up at like 5:30, like
I'll be
the
up.
day is awake. Let's go. And I'm just doing a whole bunch of nothing for 24. I mean, for, another 16 hours. Like, I just stay busy that entire time. It bothers me. I wish I could sleep in.
I feel like you need that though. Like I start binging on YouTube. Like I be doing
wish
a lot of
I
stuff I
could.
can't catch
Yeah.
up on. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Especially I didn't have no kids this week. Man.
That's right.
That's the only reason I date.
Weird.
Yeah.
I need somebody to sit me down and watch TV.
I wake up at 4:30 every morning. So I will wake up with nothing to do.
Nothing.
And I will sit in bed and watch First Things First, Skip and Shannon, Colin Coward. By that time, it is 12 up to
Listen, Shark, what he's saying is send the kids over to him to keep him busy. So then you can
So
have
what
more
I'm
free
trying to
time.
tell you is, if you want the ambulance to be calling you in between 4:30 and 12 o'clock, send them my way.
Prime
'Cause
time.
I'm going to be watching First Things First, Skip and Shannon, and Colin Coward. I don't care what is going on. Ain't nobody disturbing me
Damn.
from watching it. And that, you know what I realized when I calculated the time that I spend watching that, that's actually a work day. So
True.
I should be a sports analyst.
Man.
You could
We
be.
might have to add a segment in the pod.
I
Yeah.
should be a sports analyst.
Yeah.
I think you should.
Pod in sports. Nah. What we was gonna talk about? What were we talking about earlier?
Astrology and
astrology.
Christianity.
Yeah, astrology and Christianity. Like I'd be like, it's something. There's a few signs that I try to avoid dating, but everything else, I'm like, I don't really believe it. But there's some stuff that I'll be like, yeah, that pretty much sums them up. Like, there's not too much that's different from what they are, from what's that's described, and I'm like, you gotta have that balance of like, it's in the Bible, but I'm like, no, they act like that. They act like that versus like, oh, you gotta take everybody, and Jesus, like, no,
Take
Jesus
them
didn't.
as
Jesus
they are.
didn't die for them though.
And see, I
Dang.
think
Yes, he did.
They the ones who was left out.
that people misunderstand like the difference between astrology and things like fortune telling and tarot card reading. Astrology is just a reading of the stars, and it's just basically based on when you were born. Now, I'm not deep into it, but if you take, for instance, all of your signs, you're very, very, very close to, like, you're a textbook Aquarius. Textbook. Completely. And so, yeah, I think that there is a fine line. I think that there is a miseducation sometimes in the Christian community. Anything that looks like demonic, we're like all, up in arms about it. So I think it requires a lot more education on our part.
But you did buy those, what's up boy name? The Air Maxes? You got a pair of them? Yeah.
Oh, the devil, the 666.
You bought the devil Maxes.
Did you say you don't believe in Air Maxes?
Even if Jesus came out with a pair of Air Maxes, I promise you I wouldn't buy them. I think Air Maxes are the most terrible looking shoes ever.
Really?
Yeah, I would never buy a pair of Air Maxes.
Wait, that's a big, broad statement though. There's so
They are really good.
So many.
Jesus. No, the ones that look like, that look like a track. The ones that everyone.
The one he had on the all gold ones, like them.
I think that those Air
I had
Maxes
some black
are
gold and white ones. And
trash.
I'm like, mine is hard. I seen them all gold ones. I was like, man, I'm gonna kill this shark right now.
Out of the heart.
I could walk around with them.
We don't wear the same size, man.
Man,
The thing is, if you was gone,
Now,
you could never wear
today's
shoes.
shoes-
I know, right?
I had to wear it.
Today's
As long
shoes,
as you exist, I can't knowledgeably buy the shoes.
Well, yeah,
If I
those
see you
aren't
at a
Air
bar, I would
Maxes.
talk to you. I'd be like, "Oh, your shoes." I would try to use that as a
But I would, if I was them, I would think you were trying to get me to a pyramid scheme. You ain't never had them. That's how the people get into a pyramid scheme.
Oh.
When they talk about your shoes, like, hey man, those are cool shoes. They do 3 moves, and me working in the stores, I've gotten all 3. And well, I even had a minister tell me this is how he would
Fund his ministry.
his outreach. This is how he would do outreach for the church sometimes.
That's
If he was talking to people, he'd be like, hey man, cool shoes.
That's nasty.
And he would get them to talk about their shoes.
like nobody's business.
He would get them to talk about their shoes, or the people who do pyramid scheme. What they do is they say, "Oh man, those are cool shoes." Or if you're like, I'd be working in the stores, like, "Oh, do you like what you do for work?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, "Oh,
Makes
like,
extra money.
yeah, exactly." "Oh, how could you do this job differently? You had extra money." And then
How would you like to be your own boss?
You want to know what I do for work? And I'd be like, as I'm putting stuff up, like, man, if you don't get out of my face, one dude, he was so lazy with it. I just looked at him and I was like,
Did you even respond?
no, I responded. I'm respectful, but I was just like, dude, you aren't even coming. Like, it'd be different. You sold it to me, but other people have tried to sell it to me. This dude, he was so lackadaisical. It was like a Saturday night. He was like, he was just doing it just to do it. I was like, man, if you don't get out of my face.
Like, that's why you ain't a CEO.
Yeah. I don't want Primerica.
Like, let me just see if I can just how far I can get.
Let's see if I can flip this guy.
Yeah, it was. That's what it was.
This should be easy.
Hey, Amy, watch me get this guy real quick. I bet y'all get him.
Everybody think,
Oh
I
my God.
bet you can flip anywhere.
Yes.
Anywhere, anytime. Oh, this guy right here. I got him now.
That's it right there.
That's what it felt like.
That's it right
He
there.
had other people in the store. He came in with other people.
See?
And I swear I saw them like down the.
He was a mark. He was a mark.
He was like, go over there, go over there.
They was like, oh, look, he's got like
11 o'clock, bald headed, glasses.
Easy mark.
he's working a horrible job. Get him. He's working in the grocery store. Get him.
This should be easy.
How would you work this job differently? Man? I wouldn't be working this job.
Right?
Would you start from the bottom or go to the top down?
Like, you do not know me well. I was on overtime at that time. I was on 10 hours overtime. I didn't care what I was doing.
Hey,
in that store.
so did he respond like his sign? Alicia, since you're the
Stop
expert,
it.
you're the resident
Stop it.
expert on signs.
Yeah. Aquariuses are very straight to the point. They don't like a lot of. They're they work very hard. They're very focused and driven. But at the same time, they have this little bit of like about them.
I ain't gonna lie, you feel me? I'm gonna call you
Stop
Queen
it.
Cap right now, because for the person who ain't that deep into astrology, you recognize Miss Cleo right now. You just like, call me now.
For your free reading.
She was like, she opened up a second like, I ain't the one. Not the person to be that deep into it.
Stop
and then
it.
Frank gets his whole little
Stop
soliloquy.
it. Are you
Like,
kidding?
you know, textbook Aquarius.
If we're talking about Libra.
Paragraph 3.
I'm about to get my reading next. Like, I'm a Libra.
Okay, great. Okay, so, and it's funny because my first husband was an Aquarius and my second husband was a Libra. Libras tend to be.
All right, you gotta wait. Before you say that, though, you gotta throw some positive in there too.
Okay,
She got experience. So that's
wow.
what
Shoot.
she's talking about.
Okay, so Libras, from my experience, are very. I was gonna say something positive. I couldn't think about it first. Okay.
Next subject, because she said, "Ooh,
Oh yeah.
See what that? Ooh,
it ain't gonna even.
She was already about to.
Yeah,
You feel me?
Libras will take care. Libras take care of their responsibilities. They take care of the people that they are required to take care of. Libras can be very secretive. Libras tend to be low-key. Stop.
Can't even front.
Libras, and this is my personal experience.
I'm not secretive.
Yeah.
I'm not secret.
Everybody always looks at me like this. Why are you looking at your phone like this? Damn. Libras tend to be very like showy, from like an outside perspective, very like flossing.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
wait.
Okay.
Oh man.
All right. So
Okay, I'm done.
How about the Cancer?
About those Scorpios.
So I just think that
About those
I think
Scorpios.
that astrology and Christianity don't mean that there's not enough. People only look at what the Bible says and they don't think that there's knowledge outside of it as well. And I think that anything outside of the Bible, people kind of frown upon. But even the Bible tells you to search beyond it. And so I think that is, I think people get caught up in the tradition of what the Bible says and not necessarily practicing what the Bible says. And the Bible tells you to continue to seek beyond the knowledge of it, because even that is not going to help you encompass the understanding of God, and even outside of it, you'll never be able to encompass the understanding of God. And even if you study Revelations, when you're giving praises to God for the rest of your entire life, the seed of His throne, you'll still never understand and encompass the entirety of God. So the knowledge of it extends past it, and I think people fear searching past that because the unknown of where you're receiving knowledge from and being able to digest it without the Bible being your moral compass at that present time is the scariest thing for.
Yeah, it's a vulnerable.
But is it similar? Is it similar? Because I can talk only from my perspective. When I was growing up in the church, we didn't talk much about the details of the Muslim culture. We didn't talk about the details of Jehovah's Witness. We didn't talk about the details of Mormon culture, or even like satanic forces. You know what I mean? And it's funny because, like, I'll say Muslims, the Muslim religion, the Buddhists, there's so many positive attributes from all of these different religions. I feel like sometimes in Christianity, we just turned our eye to it because it made us, it made us uncomfortable, and it was more for us to study. But it made us uncomfortable, so we completely shunned that. And I think that's where astrology kind of swept under the rug, and everyone's like, oh, that's lumped in with all the other things that we don't want to talk about. However, I think that education in things like astrology and education in spirits and forces, I think that's extremely important for Christians because that stuff will tear you up. But I also think that exposure and knowledge of other other religions is extremely important, because other than that, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know if you're referencing Christianity and you're talking to a Muslim, you have no idea how that's coming across because you don't understand that language.
And that is the chink in our armor. And see, what a lot of people don't understand is all these other religions, the reason why they have a judgment on us is because they have done the due diligence.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
since we haven't done the due diligence to know those who we labor amongst, then we only have this vague idea of who they are. And it's based off of what somebody else may have told you basis on the own search for that knowledge.
Now, let me ask you a question, and this is to everyone. So based on what we know about being black in America in 2021, and you look at different religions, and you look at how Christianity can sometimes be lax. We'll allow whatever we want. You know, it's dependent upon the brand, upon the church. But in the Muslim culture, it's the same consistently. And when you talk about... not Seventh-day Adventists. When you talk about Jehovah's Witness, they don't play.
True.
It's the same. You will get excommunicated so quick. Oh, you thought you was about to be a little ho-ho-ho cake? Peace. Whereas in Christianity, as long as you're, in the right position in the church, if you happen to be a minister of music, I mean, we just go sweep it under the rug. You know what I'm saying? So I wonder if we would be more... because, the church is the basis for the black culture, like with slavery, that's what all we knew. But if we were a little bit more strict or refined as some of the other religions, do you think that we would be farther off with our whole civil movement? Because, look, Muslims, they haven't changed. Christianity, we've gone from Baptist churches and now we have international churches. Now everybody's welcome. And now
I think
all
that's a part of it.
You know what I mean? I mean, do you think that we kind of got less strict and we lost
I think
some of our...
us being like how we are, and them being like old world, like them having the same continuity. I think for us, it's not good. I don't think there's parts of it that is good because it allows us to adapt to changing time. But I think at the same time, it is for our detriment because then you get people who tweak it because you don't really like with like Islam. Even with Malcolm and like the Nation of Islam, there's still some like concrete beliefs that translate all across the world versus Christianity. You literally could have you got 12 different denominations. You could have them on the same block.
But I think that
Yes.
I all think that they do share similarities. I think the difference is that Jesus speaks a ministry of redemption and forgiveness, and that's what we try to. That's our cornerstone for the ministry of Christianity. And I think that when you build religion off of traditions and things of that nature, when people fall short of those standards, it gives you the ability to judge them. And I do believe that the ministry of Jesus was to break that. Because see, the thing is that we know we all should fall short of the glory of God. When I put you in a position to where I can judge you, then I have the upper hand over you. At the same time, I'm still not being held accountable for the areas I fell short at. And that's where we have the Jesus writing in the sand moment. It was, if you guys are going to hold this lady accountable for her actions, well, then I have to hold every single one of you accountable for your actions.
True.
And when it looks like that, that's when it gets really ugly. And so the thing is that the Christian church has understood that, but we've done a bad job at relaying the message on how it's supposed to look like. See, we teach the gospel more as parents, as what you should not do, instead of helping people understand why they war with themselves. See, if you don't understand why you war with yourself, you only do what you do, and we're always left to forgive you. But if I can teach you why you war with yourself, then you have the tools to be delivered from that. And I think that's what we struggle at in the Christian church, because the deacon could be sleeping around, or the pastor could be sleeping around, and we might exile them and say, you God is going to work with them, and we got to work to forgive them. But at the same time, we're not saying, hey, the flesh is weak. You know, like, and you're going to fall, succumb to that. You know, all of us are.
Yeah.
So if the case is all of us fall, that means that the reason we're here is because when you fall, it's my job to pick you up. And because you took the leadership, the role of pastoralship, your struggle or your demons might be way stronger than mine. And I think sometimes that's what we don't look at as well. So when we also look at leadership, we look at the mistakes that they made, but we don't understand that the things to trip them up might be a little bit maybe a little heavier than it is on us because the job or the role that they took. And when you take a role like that, you also have an opposition against you that is trying to defame or defame your name so that your word is not as credible. And that's I think what we see more in the Christian church. In the other churches, they will exile you because they don't want to ever have to be associated with that or have to answer for that. They'd rather just say we nipped it in the bud.
See, but I think that's so crazy that we focus so much on being right and not focus on the bottom line is love. He didn't need us to be here. We're not doing God no favor. Me talking to you about Jesus, he don't need me to do that. I'm going to be really honest with you. Jesus don't need me to talk to you about nothing. At the end of the day, he created you and said, he created you, and that salvation covers that. That's why we focus so much on nitpicking on different Christians. And if you sleeping around and you doing this, Jesus paid it all. He's not concerned. All he wanted to do was have a relationship with us. But we're so concerned with, making sure this one in check and making sure that one's in check that we're not even teaching them about his love. Because I promise you experience the love of God. All that other stuff shuts down. I don't care what you doing. When you love Jesus like that, man, it curbs all your behavior. Sometimes I just start doing something different because I think about his love.
So when we talk about astrology, I'm going to say I'm a true Libra because, last week I was a little bit,
You're true Libra.
But today, I'm on a different thing because I'm going to tell you right now, we said the exact same thing, just differently. Mm-hmm. Because that's all I'm saying. Is that God's love has to be the pinnacle, but that's how you understand why you war with yourself. And if you don't understand that, you don't understand why you war with yourself. Because see, it's pleasurable to sin.
The cool thing about this podcast, though, Marv, is we're always saying the same thing.
Yeah, no,
we're always saying, and I mean, all of us collectively are always saying the same thing, but because our different perspectives, we say, like, the language is completely different, like the Tower of Babel, but we're always.
Well, see, everybody else teaches you to fear sin because they don't want you to tap into the pleasure of sin. Because, see, the thing is everything sinful is pleasurable to the flesh. Now you can say the Pope is he's a man of God. He's in tune with man. So whatever the Pope said, it comes from God. So you can have them look at something tangible. For the rest of us, they're saying, well, how do I know what you believe? You just telling me that you got a feeling that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
But the word also tells us that we will be a peculiar type that people would think we were crazy because the way we go about business. And so we shouldn't be, you shouldn't be ashamed of that, but at the same time, it shouldn't feel comfortable that everybody else is, the speakers of every other religion got this perfect message. Mm-hmm. Mormons, they don't say that they believe every word. Mormons believe that they found a secret script somewhere here in America and dug it up.
Hold on a second. Mormons also, I'm going to tell you, my grandma who's a vet, Mormons, they aid the sick and the shut-in and the elderly. And they get this entire demographic because all the people that Christians
No, I get you.
No, but I'm saying, so it's almost, wait, no, I want to say, does our world currently want a savior, or do they want a
social program?
Yeah. Well, that's not. But see, this is the thing.
And what is a savior?
No, but see, this is the thing, and this is where Christianity also misses at. Because we'd rather say, I pray for you than meet your needs here.
Oh, 100%. Then we're not praying for you right then.
Even though we can do both.
We can do both.
We can do both.
We can, You know, I can feed you if you're hungry
Yep.
and pray for you.
Yep.
But instead, I'd rather look at you hungry and say, I'm gonna pray that that God give you
God,
everything.
no. Yeah.
And it don't work that way. And so everybody else, they go where everybody else sees those people, meet them at their needs.
Yep.
Yes.
I'll say my baby's mom right now, Latter-day Saints. She don't even practice like that, but guess what? They was giving the kids presents and doing all that type of stuff. It's like, well, I can roll with y'all.
Yeah,
I can be associated with y'all. You feel me? Because y'all meet my physical needs,
Yeah.
you know? And so the church has a hard time with doing that.
Yeah,
Like,
no.
we feel like, oh, well, God will provide. You know, while I sit up here on my little nest egg, God will provide for you. And it's like, nah, he blessed you to break off other folks, because the blessings come through people. They're not meant to be stagnant.
True.
And so the thing is you're blessed to bless.
Yeah.
You know?
That's right.
And so it's even like a church. The storehouse is for people to bless the church, so the church can always bless. You know, like you don't never want your church to be stagnant to say, oh, I can't help nobody, I can't pay a light bill,
And see,
I can't do this, I can't do that.
That goes back to the building fund for me. In that, did God tell you to build that church? Because when God has a vision, there is provision assigned for it. So how did God tell you to open that church and he didn't give you no money to have a doggone AC unit in it? That don't make no sense. That's not God's, like, as Dion Cole said, that ain't God's glory.
That's Dr.
But
Umar
it-
Bishop
the
Johnson.
legendary
That's
church
Dr.
Yeah,
Umar
it's the-
Bishop Johnson. Don Juan
The
Johnson.
King Church fan does that. But it's the idea that, do we have 3 churches on a block? Is it for purpose or is it for prestige? Because I can't follow up under someone else. Because my
I just
version
asked that
of
same question.
my
There's
version
a
of
lot
Christianity
churches
is
on
so
the block.
different from yours that I gotta have a separate building, a separate light bill. And then we talk about, now I'm gonna say something that's not gonna make you feel comfortable. So when we talk about the money and bringing tithes into the storehouse, you want me to bring my money into this organization in which I will never see a dime come back. You will not be able to help me 100% on any type of bill that I have issue with. I will not get to pick the paint color of the building. I will not get to pick how frequently you guys turn these lights on and off, but I'm paying for it. What type of organization or what type of time do you put your money in somewhere and you get nothing?
Now, see,
Because you also, hold on a second, because in 65% of churches, they do not have an organized counseling support. They do not have organized child support or organized, what do they call it when you're giving back? Benevolence that is active to the ministries. So pretty much put your money in there, never see it go anywhere.
And so I'm gonna agree with you, and I'm gonna also agree with what you was talking about what Dr. Umar Johnson said. Because see, the thing is that is where the church responsibility should be. See, the church brings in enough revenue to where they can have a bank.
Yep.
They can have a store.
Amen.
They can have a hospital.
Amen.
They can have a school. And see, the thing is that's where we're falling short, because the other communities, other religions are even doing it that way.
Yeah.
Because if they get enough money, they'll provide those services for their people.
They have school. They have daycare.
And so the thing is that's what the storehouse looks like. We're tricked into thinking that the storehouse looks like always writing a check and throwing it out to the people.
Yeah.
But the thing is what are we doing to establish some security for the people, for believers, and even not even for people to say, this is what people who follow the word of Christ do. This is how they live. That's not our example. Our example are Bible studies and Sundays. You know?
But you have people
a few feeding ministries.
you have people in America who have tied Christianity to the foundation of this country, and then said, because I've seen people say that, oh, the church is we're not supposed to have these social services. The church was supposed to do all these things, and the church, and it's right. It's like, yes, the church is supposed to do all these things, but that's not how this is set up. Like, you can't just say, oh, the church should handle all that stuff.
Well, we perverted it, and so that's what when I talk about the Pope, that's the perversion of what the church is supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Because when anything happens, they say, what is the Pope going to say?
What is the Pope going to do? Everybody around the world is looking as if that is the representation of what God said. And so that becomes the perversion of saying that this is what the church looked like. And so now, because you have that, you have all these other churches that sit on the outside that feel like when they do offer these social services, you kind of look Pope-like.
But let's talk about these social services, because how many churches actually have feeding programs that they have funded from the ground up? Most of the feeding programs that churches have, they are receiving donations from grocery stores, and they are only the middlemen. So technically, if these grocery stores will remove the churches from it, you don't even have the church as a place for food and clothing. So what my concern is that the church is not running like a well-oiled machine. We have all of these influence, but we're still working very lazily. The Latter-day Saints, Jehovah's Witness, Catholicism, all of these are ran very organized, very structured. They don't play. They have counseling, professional counseling for people who are going through. If I see one more marriage counseling that is done by someone who's never gone through any type of psychology class, I'm unnerved by that. You know what I mean? We don't have the same structure that other. No,
and I would say, because I will tell you, if you go to the Vatican of the Mormons,
to put a caveat on that, I think it has a significant impact on where we are socially and culturally, because we don't have. If we had that same level of organization, if every black person and I'm not saying this to be crazy, but if we were all Muslims, and the organizations that the Muslims have, the connections that they have to the motherland, do you think we would be experiencing the same oppression in America if we were all Muslim?
I wouldn't even say just the connection that they have with the motherland, the connection that they have with each other.
I'm saying period. I'm saying the discipline, the togetherness. I have seen it with my own eyes. Do you think that we would be different, that we would have evolved differently in this country?
Definitely, I think so.
And this is what I want people to understand too, is that some things are very foreign to American soil, especially like religions. And so you're bringing people who have a different mindset over here than an American mindset. So when you talk about people who come over from Israel or China or Asia or these other countries, and then you have what we consider Black America. See, Black America has been taught to fight against each other since the beginning. For the simple fact is, in order to even make it, there's not very many spots. So you had to be cutthroat in order to make it to one of them prominent spots. So even to the point to where you see everybody else being together, they didn't have to be as cutthroat as we were. Because by the time that they got here, it was already created a platform for them to where they can come here and have unity from the get. True. See, we come from the cloth of what started what we look at as America, and so since the beginning, it's been a fight of divisiveness.
But we had
you could take it all the back. Hold on, you can take it all the way back to the William Lynch letter. See, that's what started it off, because see, that's what gave us that itch of divisiveness. Because see, if you look like your opportunity is better than mine, then I can't with you. Because because now you master type. So you think about it. The way we look at, some people look at successful Black men in certain companies, you like, oh, they got a finger on you, because in order for you to get there, you're gonna turn on me. I can't trust you because you have one of the few spots. And so we've been conditioned to be like that. And that's why the last time I was saying, sometimes you gotta drop that black before you put it on everything, because you're bringing 500 years of trauma every time you put it on top of something. Now hold on. And so you bring in William Lynch, you bring in slavery, you bring in Jim Crow, you bring in voting rights act, you bring in all that.
Do you think it has anything to do with what we chose when we knew all the options were available, right? So let's say you got Christianity on the table, you got your bumping music, you got the churches, you got the charismatic, and then you have the Muslims. We'll just use the Muslims as an example. More structured. Women, you need to put something on your face and cover your little legs, your little thigh pockets. Now, if we had that, if you had the opportunity to choose, we'll say we're in 1960. You got Malcolm X and you got Martin Luther King. Do you choose a more lax version of Christ, or do you choose a more strict, for women, of course, you got to fall back significantly. For men, you have to fall into a standard. There is
I think a lot of us have the opportunity to choose. Me, I've been locked up before and all that time. I've had many times. I've been influenced by all of them before I had an opportunity to choose. So, like, I knew why I chose Christianity. But it was more than just a choice. It was a feeling.
And you knew all the other religions first.
I already knew that they existed by that time.
I feel like even at that point, if we had chosen, like, because if you look at Islam, like even the black Muslims here, there is within the you can call it confines of like the structure, there is a freedom in that, to where it's like, okay, I'm a find my way or in that, versus in the church it was a strict, like it was almost like almost like a bar, like they had a fence. They had a tall chain link fence. It's like, hey, you can sit around this.
Was it appearance of a fence?
But ours was the appearance of a fence with electric wire around it. Ours was appearance of a fence with electric wire around it. But really, once you went across, you was like, wait, all these people doing the same thing.
Yeah, because that's the thing.
Nothing
like,
really
in order for you to buy in, the person who was spitting felt like they had to hide their transgressions in order for you to buy in.
Exactly.
And the thing is that's not how it works.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is that now, and I think that's what's going on now, is that you're starting to see this younger generation of people are saying, we're not with that. Like, you need to, we want to see you. And so you have to show, we want you. We want the ugly part of you, because we need to know how this works. And we have to see we have to know that you've transformed, because if not, then all we see is the perfect version of you, and we feel like you can do nothing wrong. I hear a lot of pastors talk, and it sounds like to them that they sound like they speak like they can do no sin, and that their whole congregation is low down dirty dogs. Like, and that's how they talk. And it's like, bruh, but you fall short of the glory of God too. So if that's the case, you just like the people you speaking to. So instead of saying you guys, you need to be saying us, we,
I think the young people of this day, though, I think they will fall far, far away from the traditional church, only because they no longer need a spokesperson. They've shown themselves that we are the spokespeople. We will do our own research. We will determine what's necessary. We see that in the Black Lives Matter movement. Young people have gotten to their laptops and their smartphones, and they've said, we don't need your help, 30, 40-something-year-olds. We got this. We'll take it from here. So I think that Christianity, we kind of I don't want to say we lost, but they're researching it for themselves now, and they're creating their brand, that they don't need your little youth sermons no more. We don't need your little youth services where we raise the roof. They're like, no. I think it's becoming more real. I think it's like, if I love Jesus, I love him in my real self. I love him on Saturday night, just like I love him on Sunday afternoon. I'm not doing none of this fake stuff.
But I do still believe that there is, because not everybody's a leader. And so there is, you have to have somebody who leads the movement. And usually that's what somebody who steps in the role of a pastoral is. He's just the guider of the movement. That's why they call him the shepherd of the flock, because he just makes sure you stay on the straight and narrow. But if he's not transparent, he can't keep you on the straight and narrow. So the thing is what he's doing is he's blindly guiding y'all, because as he's guiding you, he's saying, I just don't want y'all to see what's over here, so just keep going this way. So now he's misdirecting you.
See, but
I think anybody's actually blindly leading anyways.
And that's a huge reason for like a whole drop off of the church.
Of course.
Because when we seen, and I never feel privy to it, but when we seen that you can fall and you're this godlike man, oh my gosh, now I don't believe in Jesus because you slept with someone else. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, because we weren't taught to go to him for ourselves.
Yes, but see, that's the thing. We grew up in a culture where people, the grandmothers, the grandfathers, they held these pastors at high esteem.
Yeah.
They made you feel like these people were close to God. So you grow up with this condition that when you see somebody speak over the pulpit, that they almost next to God, and so you start to hold these people on pedestals, and then the truth comes out, and then you have to psychologically knock them off of that.
So I want to add something to that. Then I think there's an aspect that we're not talking about, and I'm sure we're all aware of it. But it's like how much of our faith or the brand of faith that we have is still rooted in slavery, and how do we disassociate that? You know,
that's a good point, because think about the way that we deal with ourselves financially. Do we more so focus on God will provide and the check is in the mail and a blessing is a coming? Or have we, and in our age, said, well, listen, I need to go ahead and invest. God will provide, but I'm going to go ahead and set this 15% aside.
Well, faith
for
without works is dead.
So when faith without works was dead, are you saying that you need to invest into a secular situation of finance in order to come up? Or is your faith... So I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying that's how we've been taught the old world from the new world versus I believe in God, he going to come through, or...
Like waiting for
So
Are you paying your tithes and buying cryptocurrency?
One of the coded scriptures, and I'm paraphrasing, but when Christ was saying that that wise people will use worldly wealth to gain they'll use worldly wealth to gain access to eternal eternal treasure or something like that. And what I got from that standpoint is like there's a shrewdness that comes, and we talking about like different cultures and how we've seen like these are principles that are in the Bible. So it don't matter whether you're Christian or not, you can still use these principles and still have a prosperous effect.
Amen.
And so I think that that's something that we're just now beginning to learn how to do. You know what I'm saying? As a culture, as a people, it's like, how do we grasp these principles that are there? Like, you know what I'm saying? All other religions, cultures, races have begun to tap into these things and have been, but now we're coming into the knowledge. I mean, and let's not forget, I mean, at one time, it was illegal for us to even know how to read. You know what I'm saying? I
hear that.
So now we're coming into this place where we're becoming a lot of us, we've been literate, you know what I'm saying? But now coming into this financial literacy and also understanding just how things work in the world, and then being able to apply truly biblical principles to that.
Now I want to just give you some reflection on what you just said, because I won't say I'm 100% in this, but they say in history, dark-skinned folks is who taught pale folks how to be civilized.
Amen.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is we're behind the ball because somebody else created a system for us to have to catch on to, and that's where the trick is because we. See, the thing is what I was trying to push home last time is even your spiritual walk, in order for you to even be a functional part of the body, it's a self thing. And a black love thing, that's a self thing. And see, when we talk about us putting each other up against each other and doing all that, that's because ever since we've came here for 500 years, all we've tried to do is put ourselves on the same plateau as the people who brought us here, instead of saying we were good enough before we came here. So the whole time now we're fighting for this imaginary spot that somebody else created, in this imaginary rest that somebody else created. I was talking to Kendra right before then. The thing is we look at politics and we always look at we look at Republican, Democrat, right? And every election you hear the same thing. How do we get the black and the brown vote? How do we get the women vote? How do we get the black and the brown vote? But why are we always tied to the fact that it has to be Republican and Democrat? Because, see, they created this imaginary race, and we figure like the only way to get to the finish line is through them. But neither one of us, not one time have we said, we're going to pull our vote, and we're going to create our own lane. We're going to run as independents. We're going to do it this way and see how powerful we are that way. Because we have been taught one thing, that we're not good here in America until we can be as equal as the white man. And that's the problem. That's why I say holding on to black is nothing but trauma, because they created that. And so you hold on to that because you feel like holding on to that creates your existence here and makes you just as equal because that was created at the same time.
All right.
But how do you?
They don't talk, but we all study and test that. They don't talk about white and black in the Bible. They barely even talk about skin complexion. You can rarely go to places in the Bible where they even talked about skin complexion or the texture of people's hair. There's very few people that they did talk about it because even in the evolution, race was never necessarily the crust of everything.
True.
It was good and evil. Did you love people or did you not?
See?
True. But when you talk about race, talking about black people like making our own thing, I think there's another conversation between black people, and you have Africans. Who like out here especially, if we have that conversation like, hey, we're gonna pull our boat. We're gonna pull our boat. You have a lot of Africans who say, we're not your people.
But see, that's not. But see, when they ask for the black and brown vote, they're not necessarily asking for the African vote.
That's true.
Because see, what you got to really, and see, that's the difference. What people don't understand is, see, African people, they were colonized. They're white people. They're black white people. They think like the British. They do. That's who they are. When you see them come here, I'm gonna tell you right now, more times than not, what do they attract themselves to? Whatever white folks do.
That's true.
Why, when it comes to the line of employment, they're in front of us? Because they don't see us the same way that they see them. They're created in a factory.
They came over here again. They came over here voluntarily.
No, yeah, because see, the thing is us. We were brought somewhere. See, they just colonized where they was from. Let them stay in their land and just change the way that they view everything.
And see, and they bring their culture over here, and they bring them in little pockets, and they'll all work together.
Yeah.
They will party together. They will bring kids in, and they don't include us into any of that. No. Even if you try to be like, oh yeah, but no.
And funny thing is, and I think this is an option. I think we're observing what is done. Mm-hmm. It's not saying they always do this, but at the same time, they will accept other cultures, other people more faster than they will accept or include black people.
And that's the biggest problem.
Version of themselves.
I think that's the biggest problem of Black America. But I also want Black America to understand one thing. We are very, very strong. We are very, very passionate.
True.
We are very, very aggressive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and put it this way. If every time a subject came up, just thinking your own personal life, just minimalize it to your own personal life. Every time a conversation came up and you are in an interracial circle, and the black person gets passionate about how they feel, everybody else immediately wants to shut down the conversation. So maximize that to Black America. Because the way we deliver how we are displeased with how America is operating for us may be not the best way to present our case.
For them.
For us.
No, for them.
No.
They're not liking how we present it.
See, that's the thing.
We're not.
Yes,
the way that you communicate.
But what I'm trying to tell you is, all right. So what I'm trying to say is that may be natural for us, but sometimes in order just to communicate, you have to digress. And the thing is that
you're telling us we have to.
No,
right. I don't think you have to digress.
But that's the thing. In order for everything to go forward, it has to get uncomfortable for everybody.
Okay.
I know it's been uncomfortable for us for a long time, so it has to be some way that it gets uncomfortable for us, but not too uncomfortable. And us digressing is a little uncomfortable, but it may be what we need to do to push the needle. Because every time we come in passionate, they get scared and they shut it down.
Yeah.
And because it's more of them than us, it's easier for them to shut down the conversation. We're just trying to get to the table to have a conversation. But if you get scared every time we show up and you call security, you ain't finna let us in the room.
But listen,
and that's the thing.
We don't have any more limits. I think that this the situation with your homeboy, Derek Chauvin. I think the situation. I think the situations that
I can't breathe. I don't know. I can't breathe.
George Floyd. All we needed was a cell phone and a record button, and we have shown that we have no problem getting online and making money. We have no problem getting online, shaking our ass. We have no problem getting online, making our lyrics. I don't think that we are as helpless as we sometimes act as though we are. We have a big voice, and you know, like I've said a few weeks ago, I am committed to, in any situation that I'm in, whether it be corporate or outside, I am completely committed to having my voice heard. If it's aggressive, I'm sorry. This is what I got.
I get that.
My life, hold on a second. My life has put me in a position where if I don't raise my voice and say, hey, hold on, I'm here, no one will listen to me. My needs will not get met. So if I got to be aggressive and say, hey, yo, pay attention.
Well, and it's not even necessarily aggressive.
It's not even
They
aggressive.
just
It's
keep
just like,
titling that.
It's not. So that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you see it as. It only matters what people receive it as.
Yeah,
and so the thing is that. But I'm gonna tell you this right now, and I'm gonna just give you a perfect example. We've been fighting for racial equality in America for 500 years. Coronavirus happened. And Asians did not get all passionate and angry about it. And they went and talked to the powers that be. And guess what? There's an anti-Asian hate crime legislation quickly. But guess what? They didn't kick and scream. They didn't talk about how this is so wrong. They said, we've been mistreated. This ain't right that we've been treated. Yeah. But the way that they gave their message wasn't threatening to anybody. So guess what they did? Oh, we're going to pass legislation. See, the thing is we're getting there is because when Derek Chauvin did get convicted, you didn't see rioting happen. You didn't see all that. You did see Black Americans celebrate because they finally thought that they got a victory, but it was peaceful. They obviously they feel like we're going in a new direction because one thing that was happening is that there was a light showing on that Black people are going to take another approach this time. Because when they showed the stories of peaceful protests and the unity and the overcoming and the cops sitting in the middle of big crowds and all that, that was peaceful Black people saying, hey, we do want to be heard. It's not about yelling and fighting and all that no more. It's just gotten too far.
But that's because we've been domesticated, though, because our natural inclination is we're warriors. Are you going to acknowledge that we're over domesticated from what we come from? Like the African soil that we come from, we're overly domesticated being here, like not being able, for me to be called aggressive is like, what the hell? What do you mean aggressive? Like I've seen African women shut things down, like they manage their household like beasts, and like they're a lot more aggressive than I am. I'm like, JoJo, please sit down. They're like, if you don't get watch my neighbor, she'll come over here and get everybody in this dog. But I'm saying because we're so far from that, we become timid in being who we are. We're told, oh, don't be. What? Go ahead.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that Black people are the only ones that feel like don't feel like what's good for the goose is what's good for the gander. See, I want you to approach me a certain way, but when it's time to approach you, I want to approach you the way that I want to approach you, and that's what I'm trying to say. You can't never get a point across to somebody when you want to approach them the way you want them to approach it, and you want them to receive it no matter what. That's insanity. So the thing is what I'm saying is sometimes you have to digress because you know that the person is only going to receive what you say if you digress. And if you're not ready to, you're not ready to move forward. And that's the point that I'm trying to push.
I get that.
You can hold on to all that trauma. You can do that. And guess what the rest of America gonna say? You can do that by yourself. Just think about it. You see somebody walking down the street butt naked with a styrofoam cap on or whatever, you ain't finna try to intervene and figure out what's going on for you. Partner, I don't know what you're going through. But that's yourself. You're going to do it, and that's what sometimes we look like. I'm not going to say that's what you feel like. I get that. I just understand. Let me finish this. I understand the pain that comes from it. So I know sometimes it always reciprocates that way. But I also understand that in order to, even in an argument between two people, as soon as one person seems aggressive, the other side goes automatically to shut it down or match that aggression.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes in order to get something done, you have to digress. It's called being the bigger person. It's not always calling match fire with fire. And that's how we always lose the fight.
I want to say this, though. To that point, it's like we had Colin Kaepernick who kneeled because of police brutality, right? Okay. And we've had the other aspect of that where we had the Panthers who was ready to do armed resistance. And it's like nothing that we've done as a people necessarily brings us to the table where they hear us.
Okay.
And I feel like part of the reason why the Chauvin trial went the way it did was because they did not want the city, and not just that city in Minneapolis, but cities across the country to burn down. And many times that is the thing, like America was built on bloodshed, and power respects power. So when they begin to see the power that we possess, that we bring to the table, that's the thing that triggers in them like, okay, maybe we need to rethink this, because the whole we shall overcome, that only gets us so far.
All right. I want to give you. I just want to give you a couple examples because of what you're saying, and that's what that militant mindset has always got us in trouble in America. So you're talking about the Black Panthers. Do they exist today? Nah, because guess what? As soon as they seen a form of aggression, they crushed that. Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma. As soon as they felt like we were a form of aggression, they crushed that. So what I'm trying to tell you, but then you also see Martin Luther King. You see Emmett Till. Yeah. Hold on. No, so we're talking about things that actually move the needle. So when we did the opposite, when we digressed, that's what moved the needle. But not when we were standing on capitals with guns.
Hold on a second. I have a question. Does it really move the needle, or do they show we're gonna give you this one? Because I don't believe that they respect us anymore, and I don't believe that.
Well, and I hear what you're saying. Like, I hear what you're saying. Is it like a pacifier saying you whining too much? But at the same time, look at it. On the other side, we got nothing. We actually lost. We were dying. They were slaughtering us. When they felt like we were that aggressive, they were slaughtering us. They did everything to defame, defoul, and kill us. It was steal, kill, and destroy. That was the mission. When we said, your mission is finna be steal, kill, and destroy, okay, this is how we're finna attack it, and then we showed that they can be monsters, that's when people said, they had no choice. See, the thing is, I don't care about what you go home and how you really feel. But my job is to put you in a position to where you have no choice but to make the change. See, when I'm aggressive, you can always say, see, that's why we ain't gonna do it. Because every time that pumps more fear. They can paint the picture that pumps more fear than does good. But
any form of black resistance, whether it's peaceful or non-peaceful, is seen as aggressive.
Of course, because they brought you here. So the mind state of you coming and bucking up to the hand that feeds you is always going to be a threat.
But I have the question.
I'm not saying that that's right.
So then what's the difference then? Why just give them what they want by showing no aggression?
But see, that's what I'm saying. The thing is
I don't know why we care.
No, but that's what I'm trying to tell you.
We're the smartest. If you mean to tell me that I, being a black woman, I was raised from nothing. We had commodity meat. Like, that's the stuff that they don't even feed
and government cheese. And
so if I come from that and I went to cheese? You never had government cheese?
Nah, I ain't never.
A government cheese sandwich is live.
I had government cheese. I don't even have government cheese.
I never even had a system.
The thing about the government.
Let me tell you about
what?
I used to think the government cheese was like, you know how they spell gourmet?
Bro.
I used to think people were like, I was younger. I was like, why are you pronouncing this?
I'm gonna tell you
that government cheese made the best grilled cheese sandwich.
Best grilled cheese sandwich with government cheese.
And you would stand in line to get it.
You didn't know nothing until you had to take, because everybody got it good now because your EBT looked like a debit card. But when it looked like money and you had to fold it in between the real money just because you didn't want people behind you to know that you had.
Listen.
Oh my God.
Listen. When your friends
friends who had the food stamps, but we didn't have them. Like we was just above. We was just. I know people who had the food stamps.
Listen, I'll be excited when you get that $5 bill.
The $5 food stamps was what it was.
I was like, here.
We were just above. We were just above the part where you could get that stuff. Like we had to reduce lunch.
You guys were on the Twitter.
J23.
We had to reduce lunch, so it was like it wasn't free. I knew all my friends, a bunch of my friends had free lunch, but I had to pay 40 cents for lunch. And so we was like bougie light. We was like bougie light. We was like, but the government.
Because your daddy got the good job at Ford.
She worked for the state.
Matter of fact, we ate government cheese so real that when they discontinued it, my grandmama was on the news in the line to get the last bit of government cheese.
Let me tell you how cold my grandma was. My grandma, shout out to Mildred Horn, Phoenix, Arizona. My grandma was down in Phoenix, Arizona, like saying, okay, these other counties have food stamps. You ain't giving us no cheese.
Black